Hey bestie! Welcome back to Powerhouse of the Cell, where longevity, belief, and femininity intersect to help us lead longer, healthier, and more intentional lives. I'm your host, Elle, and let's get into it. I am so happy to be back. We are now in season 2 of Powerhouse of the Cell, and season 2 will be a little different, a lot of the same stuff. I hope that we all learn a lot together and that we can really create something beautiful here. Now, let's talk about today's episode. There's these videos going around social media, and it's about how bonobos created peaceful matriarchal societies because they stopped mating with violent male bonobos. And the purpose of the creators sharing that is to tell other women that we can actually breed out violence in humans as well. And that got me thinking. Number one, is this study on bonobos even real? And number two, can women really create a violence-free future for everyone? So in this episode, we are talking about matriarchal bonobos, the biological basis of violence, and women have shaped, are shaping, and will shape the future of humanity. And after doing all the research for today's episode, I can absolutely confidently tell you that both science and culture point to this one truth. Women have always held the power to change the future. This whole episode started because I came across this video on TikTok, and it says, "Me at girls' night trying to explain how to effectively eliminate all crime and violence in society by breeding it out like the female bonobos did because they banded together and chose not to mate with males who outwardly displayed aggression." This is but one of the many TikTok videos speaking on the matter, and I'm like, okay, let me find this article. And I couldn't find this specific article per se that studied how female bonobos banded together and chose not to mate with aggressive males, and that's how they eliminated all crime and violence in their society. But what I did find was this study published in April of this year of the Lord 2025, titled "Drivers of Female Power in Bonobos." And in the article, the researchers talked about how in mammals, female dominance over males is a rare phenomenon, and that bonobos, which are one of our closest living relatives phylogenetically, have females with higher status over males. And what's even more interesting is that the male bonobos are larger than the females. So how could the smaller in general females have higher status than the males? And the researchers tested 3 hypotheses as to why this is the case. But before we get into that, a quick word from today's sponsor, BetterHelp. This episode is all about choice, and one of the most important choices you can make is to invest in your own mental health. BetterHelp is the sponsor of today's video and makes therapy accessible, flexible, and designed around your life so you don't have to wait to take that step. BetterHelp is a platform where therapists and their clients can communicate effectively and get the most out of therapy. There's a journal inside for personal reflection, and there are group sessions on a number of different topics available every day. One of the best things I've ever done for myself is to connect with licensed professionals who have given me the tools to navigate the many trials and tribulations that I was going through, specifically in terms of negative self-talk and feeling like I'm enough and constantly seeking outside validation, which led to a lot of toxic cycles that I was participating in that were not at all beneficial to me. Toxic relationships with work, with friends, with other people. Experiences that have shaped the content that I create now is the exact reason why every video I create has an affirmation in the beginning, the middle, the end, because I wanted to create content that past me would have loved to see, would have needed to see. And I wouldn't have gotten to this stage of self-love and being able to share that love with others if it wasn't for the professionals that have helped me along the way. And I have tried therapy in multiple different settings, and by far, BetterHelp was the most accessible out of all of them. BetterHelp matched me with an amazing therapist who helped me work through my blocks and identify the patterns that I kept falling into. One thing I really needed help with was help with my imposter syndrome. And I've had this all my life, feeling like, who am I to do XYZ thing, all while actively doing that XYZ thing, and just realizing that it doesn't matter if I think I'm good enough to do it. If I'm already doing it, then that's proof enough that I'm good enough to do it. And one of the best gifts that I have gotten from the realizations and the reinforcement that I got from therapy is how I am able to be a better friend, a better family member, a better creator, just a better version of myself, because I started loving myself. I started thinking that I'm good enough. I started thinking that I don't need outside validation, that I'm enough. And yeah, that's why I always share those affirmations with you in every single video, because I needed those affirmations at many points in my life. And also, on top of having licensed and qualified professional therapists on their platform, BetterHelp does a great job of matching you with someone who aligns with you as a person. And if you wanted to switch therapists for any reason or no reason, just vibes, say less. They'll match you with a new one, no questions asked. So if you're struggling and think you'd benefit from a therapy session, click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/manifestl to get 10% off your first month of therapy. That's betterhelp.com/manifestl to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Now back to the topic. The first hypothesis as to why female bonobos have higher status than male bonobos is the self-organization hypothesis. And this basically proposes that winning and losing conflicts can create a self-reinforcing cycle. In other words, individuals who have just lost a conflict are more likely to lose again, while those who have won are more likely to continue winning. It's similar to the rich get richer, the poor get poorer analogy. When you win, you're more likely to win again, and when you lose, you're more likely to lose again. And the second hypothesis is the reproductive control hypothesis. And this hypothesis focuses on the evolutionary and social mechanisms that favor non-aggressive male mating strategies. It proposes that when males have limited ability to monopolize access to fertile females, aggression becomes a less effective reproductive tactic. I mean, surprise, surprise. When females de-incentivize aggression, males, to secure access to females, tend to be less aggressive. But this can only happen when there is low male monopolization of female fertility, meaning this can only happen when women have a choice. And there are two biological and social factors that can reduce male monopolization. Number one is concealed ovulation. When female animals don't display obvious signs of fertility, males cannot easily determine the optimal time for getting them pregnant. And when males don't know when a female is ovulating, meaning when she is most likely to get pregnant, it's kind of hard to monopolize her time and make sure that other males don't get to her when she is ovulating, meaning the males have to be around her and guarding her all the time. And fun fact, female humans are one of the few mammals to have concealed ovulation. And why is it so important that female humans have concealed ovulation? It's because it disrupts the usual power dynamics around reproduction and forces entirely different social and mating strategies to evolve. When you have these visible fertility cues like scent changes, coloration, or swellings, they all trigger intense male competition and mate guarding. So the males, when they don't know when ovulation happens, it means that they cannot time their aggression or monopolization with peak fertility. Because fighting other males is costly, it's dangerous, they could die. And males can't do that all the time. They can do that probably once or twice in their lifetime and survive from it. So female humans having concealed ovulation means that fighting other males to the death sometimes is just not a good strategy, because you don't know when a female human or bonobo is ovulating. So the result of males not being able to detect ovulation is that they must play nice. They must maintain long-term bonds or cooperative relationships to ensure mating opportunities. And this increases female choice and also reduces the benefits of aggression as a mating strategy. And obviously, this isn't foolproof. Plenty of male humans are still able to access women during ovulation and have children as a result of that. But to really appreciate the concept of concealed ovulation, we need to look at our other not-so-distant cousin, the chimpanzees. Unlike us human and bonobos, chimpanzees exhibit obvious ovulation. When the girlies are ovulating, everybody knows it, and their social dynamic revolves around competing for visibly fertile females. And contrast that social dynamic with that of humans and bonobos. Our social dynamic, in general, often, not always, revolves around social cohesion. And here's another interesting phenomenon related to concealed ovulation. In theory, without a clear fertility signal, paternity certainty drops, meaning the males tend to not be 100% sure of who the father of the children is. And in theory, this can incentivize multiple males to invest in the same female's offspring, since any of them could be the father. And also, in theory, it could promote egalitarian behavior. Now, humans developed a different solution to the lack of paternity certainty because of concealed ovulation, and so we have patriarchy. But that's another topic. In essence, chimpanzee mating behavior is a lot more aggressive and violent than that of bonobos. And the next factor that can reduce male monopolization of access to female fertility is the synchronization of female reproduction. If multiple females are fertile at the same time, it can become impossible for a single male to control or monopolize all of his opportunities. So this one is more of a logistical issue than anything, and I'm also fascinated by the idea that women's cycles seem to sync when they spend a lot of time together, and I wonder if that phenomenon, if true and repeatable, is at all tied to this strategy of preventing male monopolization, right? Food for thought. And because of these two factors, concealed ovulation and synchronization of female reproduction, they both give women more leverage over reproduction, over having children, and they both help women in de-incentivizing male aggression. Moving on, the third hypothesis as to why female bonobos have higher status than the much bigger male bonobos is the female coalition formation hypothesis. The authors of the paper, they write that the results support only this hypothesis. Basically, the researchers observed and counted all the times an individual male received aggression from the females, and they counted the occurrence of males exhibiting subordinate status to the females by counting the number of times the males fled. So basically, if you run away, you lose. Now, if you're wondering, where is the part where the female bonobos refuse to mate with aggressive male bonobos, and that's why their communities are matriarchal and generally experience less male aggression compared to other mammals, aka the chimpanzees, aka humans, it wasn't in this paper. Although it could be in other papers, so if you can find it, please share in the comments, and I'd love to do a follow-up. Now, although the idea of female bonobos wiping aggression out of the gene pool would fit nicely within the reproductive control hypothesis, which would support the idea that female bonobos are choosing less aggressive males to mate with, it wasn't in this paper. So if this premise was not in this paper, why do we keep seeing TikTok saying it as if we have scientific basis for it? Well, it's because we are literally dying for a better, less violent world towards women. No, seriously, we're literally dying. We want empirical evidence that female bonobos are taking violent males out of the gene pool because that would give us permission to do the same. But why do we need permission in the first place? Permission from bonobos? Like, why don't we just do it now? Why don't we start the sperm wars? In evolutionary biology, sperm wars often refers to the competition between male gametes inside the female reproductive tract. But this can also be applied to the larger truth. Women, through their mate choice, have always been the ultimate arbiters of which sperm and which traits get carried forward. In this sense, women control human evolution. And in Cat Bohannon's book, Eve, How the Female Body Drove 200 Million Years of Human Evolution, she talks about exactly that, how women have a role in shaping human evolution. Across evolutionary time, the female body has been the primary selective force shaping not only reproductive biology, but also brain development, social organization, and even language. I took my time reading this book, and my main takeaway is that women have been shaping humanity ever since the beginning of humanity. Whether we believe it or not, whether we accept it or not, the reality is we do. We simply do. And with that knowledge that we have the ability to shape the future of humanity, we can then be more mindful of how we are doing so. Because it's not a question of if we are able to do that, we're already doing that. It's just a matter of how. If aggression and violence have a heritable component, then female mate choice becomes an evolutionary filter. So let's get into the biology of aggression. There are three things that point to the biological basis of aggression, and that it may be real. Number one is hormones. Testosterone has been linked to aggressive and status-seeking behavior. Meta-analyses suggest a relationship between higher circulating testosterone and increased aggression or dominance-related outcomes. Cortisol also plays a role. The dual hormone hypothesis posits that aggression is most likely when testosterone is high and cortisol is low, and it creates a physiological profile of dominance without fear of reprisal. And the second is muscle mass and stature. Greater upper body strength and muscle mass are associated with a higher likelihood of engaging in aggressive competition. And anthropological research shows that in many societies, taller men have historically had greater access to mates and higher social status, reflecting an evolutionary pathway in which stature and strength increase reproductive opportunities. And these traits, while not inherently violent, they create a physical potential for dominance and conflict. It's like pit bulls and chihuahuas. One has a greater capacity for damage simply because of their physique, but it doesn't mean that they will always be 100% damaging. They just have a greater capacity for it. And the third one is the warrior gene. The monoamine oxidase A, or MAOA gene, or the warrior gene, regulates the breakdown of neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. A low activity variant, MAOA-L, has been linked to heightened impulsivity and aggression, particularly when combined with childhood maltreatment. And we have to take note of this, that just because you have the gene doesn't mean that you will 100% express it. Your genes may predispose you, but your environment gives the finishing touch. So combining all of these three factors, hormones, muscle mass and stature, and the warrior gene, they all constitute a picture that the biological basis of violence may exist. But caveat on caveat on caveat, okay? Just because you have the gene for it doesn't mean you will 100% express it. Just because you are predisposed towards something doesn't mean that that is your whole identity. And I actually just finished a book that touched on this, about how even though you are predisposed for something doesn't mean that that will be your destiny.
Let me pull it up.
I just finished John Steinbeck's East of Eden. There's a scene in this book when Cal, who was abandoned by his mother when he was a baby, finds out his mother's true identity. Although it wasn't explicitly said in the book, his mother is a psychopath, and he finds her and watches what she does for work and also for pleasure, and he sees the coldness in her eyes, that she is a psychopath and that she has no empathy for others, and she actually enjoys seeing pain in others, and he sees that in himself, and he's always punished himself for it. His propensity for cruelty, he is cruel to his brother sometimes, but he also loves his brother. But anyway, he talks to Lee, who has been his caretaker since birth, about seeing his mother and her true colors. Cal says to Lee, "It's like you said about knowing people. I hate her because I know why she went away. I know because I've got her in me." And then Lee, he jumps up and he says, "You stop that, you hear me? Don't let me catch you doing that. Of course you may have that in you. Everybody has. But you've got the other too." And he goes on and says, "Don't you dare take the lazy way. It's too easy to excuse yourself because of your ancestry. Don't let me catch you doing it. Now, look close at me so you will remember. Whatever you do, it will be you who do it, not your mother." And this scene just highlights how you can have the propensity to do bad things, to be violent, to be aggressive, to take advantage of people, to coerce people into doing your will. But you are human. And the most beautiful thing about being human is your choice. You can choose to override your biology. You can choose to override your propensity. You can choose to override the things that your body tells you to do, because you are human. You can choose. So the worst thing that you can take away from this section is that some people are predisposed to be aggressive, to be violent, to be harmful to others, and that's that. No. Learning about the biological basis of violence helps us be more aware of its presence and how we can combat it in our everyday choices and how we nurture others. Okay? So, nuance, okay? No nuance Nellies are not allowed here, because we're talking about really important things. And to be so reductive is the complete opposite of what we're trying to do here. Okay? Now, with all that being said, aggression and violence, carrying with it a biological heritable characteristic, is vividly dramatized in Sherry Tepper's The Gate to Women's Country. In this book, women quietly engineer society by controlling education, warfare, and reproduction. And they allow only gentle and peaceable men to father the next generation. And central to this book is this notion that violence is heritable and genetic. And that sounds pretty promising, right? But it's a matriarchal dystopia for a reason. So in the novel, men are allowed to choose between being a warrior or a servitor. And within the groups of men, warriors have higher status and servitors have lower status. And servitors are actually really bullied by other men because they choose not to serve and they choose to be with the women. And also, the warriors, they're not allowed in the cities where the women and children and servitors are. The warriors are separated. And the warriors are led to believe that they father all the children within the city. But plot twist, the reality is that the servitors, the ones who chose not to be warriors, the ones who chose nonviolence, the gentle, peaceable men, they are the ones chosen as fathers. And basically, the female leaders of women's country, they have this breeding program that only allows servitors to father children. And generation by generation, they're trying to breed out violence. So the book goes into more detail about it, but that's the premise, right? And this book really highlights women's choice in who they reproduce with and how that can inform the future. And where do we see that idea pop up as well? The Bene Gesserit of Frank Herbert's Dune. Remember when the Reverend Mother tells Paul, "Because you are Jessica's son, you have more than one birthright, boy." Remember that? Yeah. So the Bene Gesserit, they're also constructing bloodlines. They're also choosing who gets to inform the future. They have the future in their hands because they get to decide who's having kids with who and which alliances we need to forge and blah, blah, blah. Like, it just highlights female choice as informing the future. Side note, I also want to emphasize that selecting against outwardly violent or aggressive partners is not the same as embracing non-outwardly violent, non-outwardly aggressive partners who are still manipulative and still coercive. Evolutionary psychology warns us that males unable to compete through strength or status, they sometimes pursue females through manipulation, coercion, or subversive strategies. And these are forms of sneaky mating tactics observed in non-human primates and fish. Like, the term sneaky strategy is a real scientific term. So yeah, I wanted to emphasize that. So now that we've talked about the biological basis of violence and bonobos forming female coalitions to drive away aggressive males, here's what the bonobos are really teaching us about choosing better men. Women banding together and driving out men exhibiting violent, domineering behavior is the path to a peaceful society. When men don't protect women, women protect each other. And I actually think the female coalition hypothesis is so poetic because day in, day out, women are blamed for quote unquote choosing wrong, excusing the observable fact that harmful people can lie and pretend. But when the mask falls, women can count on each other to protect each other. The bonobos teach us that when all else fails, women have each other. And because the girlies watching this are highly conscientious, very demure, very mindful, very considerate, let's get into the important philosophical questions that naturally arise whenever women take back their power to choose. Number one, no nuance Nellies and co. who want women to be free resources to be exploited will scream eugenics when women finally choose better after all this time that women have been told to choose better. It's like they tell women to choose better, then get Pikachu surprised that some people are not chosen because they were not the better choice after all. Okay? Anyway, let's talk about the eugenics allegation. First, let's define terms. Eugenics refers to state-driven or institutional attempts to control reproduction in order to improve the genetic stock of a population, often through coercion, sterilization, or outright violence. And this is categorically different from natural selection or artificial selection. Eugenics is top-down, coercive, and authoritarian. Eugenics is patriarchal. Natural and artificial selection are descriptive and mechanistic. It's just what happens. And here's the crucial distinction as to why women choosing better partners to have children with, if they are to have children, is so different from eugenics is number one, it's not institutional. Women don't have institutional power to enact eugenics. This is individual women's choices magnified through a population. Women making informed, autonomous decisions about their own bodies is not eugenics. A woman choosing not to have children with someone who would endanger her or her children's lives is not institutional, is not coercive, it's simply opting out. It is survival, it is self-preservation, it is reproductive agency. In contrast, the expectation that women should bear children for men they do not wish to reproduce with is coercion. And it is so telling that whenever women speak about agency in choosing partners to create children with is labeled eugenics. as if the institutionalized coercion of motherhood isn't in itself authoritarian and inhumane. No one owes anyone children. No one owes society children. Children are not a duty. They are a privilege. They are a hope for the future. They are the future. They are a gift women grant to a future they believe deserves continuation. Women's ability to make that decision has been suppressed, legislated against, or violently controlled. Yet the truth persists. We decide. Point blank, period. And importantly, not everything has to be a mandate. Not everything has to be a law. Not everything has to be shoved down everybody's throats. Like, what is this obsession with making everything into a rule, an order, a law? Like, what is this obsession with having to submit to something? And then they say women aren't naturally submissive. We don't need rules to do what we feel in our bones is the right thing to do. We simply do. Educating women about the option to refuse reproduction with coercive, malicious, women-hating partners is not eugenics. It's common sense. Women can weigh the gravity of the choice themselves, and when a woman does choose poorly, if she is afforded the choice at all, the reality is in itself the consequence. She doesn't need additional punishment from society, and we don't need to kick her while she's down. As Adrienne Rich reminds us, women have been driven mad, gaslighted for centuries by the refutation of our experience and our instincts in a culture which validates only male experience. The truth of our bodies and our minds has been mystified to us. We therefore have a primary obligation to each other. Our future depends on the sanity of each of us, and we have a profound stake in the project of describing our reality as candidly and fully as we can to each other. We owe one another this truth, that our choices matter, that our instincts are valid, that saying no is freedom. It is our responsibility, and it is our only way forward. Remember that children are a gift women give to a society that they feel deserves continuation. And I also want to reiterate that even though violence may have a biological basis, it is not biologically deterministic. Women have, do, and will shape the future of humanity through reproduction. But it is not just about nature, it is also about nurture. We're not locked into aggression and domination as our destiny. We absolutely 100% rebuke that. We have the power to cultivate tenderness, cooperation, creativity, and resilience. We have the power to lead with love by choosing differently, by choosing fathers differently, by choosing to nurture boys into men differently. Biology may set the stage, but women decide who gets to perform and how they perform. As Adrienne Rich envisioned in Of Woman Born, we need to imagine a world in which every woman is the presiding genius of her own body. In such a world, women will truly create life, bring forth not only children, but the visions and the thinking necessary to sustain, console, and alter human existence. A new relationship to the universe. Sexuality, politics, intelligence, power, motherhood, work, community, intimacy will develop new meanings. Thinking itself will be transformed. This is where we have to begin. This is where we begin. In the womb, in our mind, our heart, and soul. To choose well, to choose wisely, and to choose each other. When we claim our power of choice fully and without apology, we do more than create children. We create a whole new world. That's all I have for you today. I just want to let you know that your power lies in you knowing yourself, accepting yourself, and embodying yourself. And remember, protect your energy. And a big thank you to today's sponsor, BetterHelp, for sponsoring today's video. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/manifestL to get 10% off your first month of therapy. That's betterhelp.com/manifestL to get 10% off your first month of therapy. And if you enjoyed today's video, click the like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you never miss a powerhouse episode. Thank you so much.